Good evening, YouTube. So this evening here we are looking at the Mary, or Marie, as she's also called. It's actually a Danish or Scandinavian name, and it's one of the many ways you can spell Mary in Danish. So it's kind of Christmas theme, kind of, I guess, with the Holy Mary and all that kind of stuff. But enough talk about that. I think the hero looks very interesting. She has a very nice art, and I thought we should just take a quick look at her and also take to consider some kind of possibilities where we can use her in-game in PvE and PvP. Now, Mary is a Holy Light Parliament faction here. We are all wondering why she's not an unruly outlaw, but it is what it is, and apparently she looks more like a Holy Light than a cowboy faction. So she's an attack type, and she's also a red mark, which is quite nice, and I come back to that, why that is very important later on in this video. Now let's just go through her abilities here. I've already been reading them a bit, understanding what they're doing, and I will explain it to you why I think this is very broken and strong. Now, on her basic attack, she's dealing 280% attack damage to a single enemy and inflicts feebleness 2 for 2 turns. Now, it's important to note here that it says inflicts feebleness 2, which means that she doesn't need effect hit to land it. She will apply the feebleness 2 debuff, which is the 40% direct damage buff debuff, every time she does her basic attack, either with a pursuing attack, a counter attack, or just a basic attack. So that is very nice. She doesn't need any effect hit for that. The only thing in her kit that actually needs effect hit is the freeze chance on her basic attack, and it says here that she has a 30% chance to inflict freeze for 1 turn. I would not go for effect hit on her, just ignore effect hit, you do not need it. The single target freeze on her basic is fine if it lands, but to get it to work in a PvP setting or even a PvE setting where it can't apply to bosses anyways and stuff like that, it's not worth it. Just ignore effect hit on her. The only thing that she needs effect hit for is this freeze hit on her basic attack, so forget about it. 30% is a very low chance to start with, and if you have to make it to something that is decent enough to even land in PvP, then you probably need to hit around 200% effect hit or freeze hit combined, and that's not worth it. So ignore effect hit on her. That is the first thing I'll say. Now it also says that reduces all of self skills cooldown by 1 turn after launching basic attacks proactively each time. This means that if she pursues an attack or she gets a counter attack, this will not work. But if she does the basic attack by herself, like proactively, then it's going to reduce the cooldowns of all her skills by 1 turn, which is huge. It's like having a built-in Lydia in her basic attack. It's huge. So you go S2, S4, and then the basic attack, boom, you have already reduced it by 1 turn, right? That is huge. I think that is very interesting. That is one I am curious to test on first day to see how fast can she get her abilities back. We don't know the cooldowns yet on ability 2 here and ability 4. It never says on these character screens here, but we'll see on first day. If my guess is that it's just like everyone else, where it's a 3 turn cooldown on the S2 and a 4 turn cooldown on S4. That is the default basic one. This is probably going to be the same, right? And that is with books, obviously. So she's going to be able to kind of get back to her skills very quickly just by using her basic attack. Now her first skill here, her Cool Gifts and Cool Gifts Resonance, says that it deals 3 stages of 280% attack damage each to a single enemy and inflicts 1 layer of Christmas Night on enemies, excluding boss, for 2 turns. Now it says that for every 1 layer of Christmas Night owned by the target, reduces their speed by 5% up to 4 layers. So you can have up to a 20% speed reduction. It also says that it replaces the skill with the Resonance variation once she is in Resonance Enhancement. Now the Resonant part of it, once she is in her Resonance Enhancement status, attacks a single enemy, removing all buffs from them, and then deals 3 stages of 280% attack damage considered as resonance damage, and ignores damage immunity, shield and immortal. This is important, like, okay, so you can maybe say that, hey, she's removing all the buffs anyways. Why do we care if she is able to go through damage immunity, shield, and immortal? Didn't we just remove all the buffs? Well, there are unremovable buffs. You can have a block removal buff, but you can also have like Sun Wukong shield, that is a unique buff that you cannot remove. You can buff strip that, but then she'll still ignore that, so that is huge. And the damage immunity part just means that in PvE on bosses that are immune, that has some kind of damage immunity, like dot immunity or whatever, you can still hit them even regardless of this. It works just like exclusive tree on Naruto, right? Now it also says that if the target is killed, increases all skills cooldown for the rest of the enemies by 2 turns. If not, increases all skills cooldown for the target by 2 turns. So basically, I think for PvP you will want to go for squishy targets on manual, unless the AI is very clever, so maybe it knows that it should target the weak targets first. Then you kill someone. In PvP you kill a weak target like a Lydia or someone that doesn't have a lot of HP, and after that the rest of the team, the enemy team, will have all the cooldowns on +2. So that means that you can really disrupt a lot of stuff here in PvP. For PvE it's not the biggest, because mostly on bosses you can't increase the skill cooldowns anyways, and nobody really cares about cooldowns on trash or waves in dungeons and stuff like that, but it could be nice in some other places, I guess. But this will, as I see it, is mostly for PvP. Now if she doesn't kill the target, then she's going to put the target's cooldown on a 2-turn cooldown. So that is also great. Also says that meanwhile she's inflict 1 layer of Christmas Night on enemies for 2 turns, and then the same as before with the 5% up to 4 layers. A passive here, this is her first passive here, Christmas Snow. Mary is immune to speed down and a turn meter reduction, and all of her skills cooldown cannot be affected by others. So if you are mirroring, if you are going up against another Mary, then you cannot get the speed down, you cannot get turn meter, or you cannot get your cooldowns affected by the cool gifts ability. It does not say anywhere that she is immune to CC, so you can CC her. Yeah, you can CC her, she's not immune to CC, so that will be one way to counter her. Now it also says that reduces all allies' damage taken by 25% when they are attacked by heroes with a counter mark. She's a red mark, but as I read this abilities here, reduces all damage taken by the attack by counter mark. I also read it like if you are green mark or blue mark, then their counter mark is also doing 25% less damage. So it's not only for red and blue and red and green, it is about the other one. Force is not in this one here, so Sun Wukong and Giselle, for example, will not be taking less damage because they are force, and force has no countered mark. It says here that there are a max limit of 10 points, resonant points, and when allies launch basic attack, all cast skills proactively grants her 1 point. So basically, once allies is doing anything, then she gets a point of resonance. Once she is in that state, she will replace the other ability with the resonance one, and in the duration she cannot gain resonance points. And now this is what I'm most excited about, I think, on her passive. The piercing rate of Mary and the ally with the highest attack, excluding Mary, is increased by 100%. And Mary's damage dealt to boss is increased to 300% of the original. So she's going to, instead of doing around, I think, 800% attack up here with the cool gifts, then she's going to do like 2000% damage instead, which is going to be huge. But let's get back to the piercing rate being 50 because that is very important for her. She is a direct damage dealer. She does not ignore defense because she's not a dot damage dealer. She needs crit hit to be crit capped at 100%, and she also needs crit damage and attack. And because of the piercing rate here on this ability here, you will be able to ignore defense anyways, but you have to be in the resonance enhancement, and that is why this one and the exclusives that we get to in a bit is super important for her. Of course, you want to have 100% piercing rate, just as if you were a bleed damage dealer or a dot damage dealer of any other kind. That is what is doing a lot of damage in PvP at the moment, so that is great. to see that they build in a 100% direct damage dealer thing here. She'll also do 100% piercing rate for the ally with the highest attack, so I'm already thinking about, could you maybe pair her with a Jingle Belle? Maybe not in PvP, but at least in PvE. In PvE, direct damage teams, maybe you can fit in both of them somehow, and she can give 100% piercing rate to Jingle Belle every time she's in resonance state, something like that. Could be super great. Now, Christmas gift here is her S4 here, grants block debuff on all allies and deals 520% attack damage to all enemies afterward. Now, what I'm thinking here is that the block debuff will be countered by the Giselle exclusive tree, where she's removing the block debuff when the ally gets her turn. I think, unless it's applying it after, so it's kind of hard to see here. But let's just think something here. Let's just play along here. She gets a turn, and because Giselle's exclusive tree says something like it's removing the block debuff at the beginning of the turn of the hero, right? And then if this one here is putting it back every time she attacks, then it can kind of counter the exclusive tree on Giselle, at least about the block debuff one. But I don't know, we'll have to see him first if that is how it works. There's also no turn duration on this one, which looks kind of weird. It doesn't say 1 or 2 turns or whatever. The only one that has a turn thing down here is actually the Christmas night debuff, so maybe they need to fix a bit of the wording here. It also says that she's inflicting some Christmas night, and then it also says that if she's on the resonance status, she will cast this cool gives resonance here up here to pursue and attack the enemy with the highest mastery ones. Very interesting, because if you are against the Giselle team, then Giselle most likely is the one with the most mastery, and so do note that this is not against the highest attack, it's against the highest mastery, so it would be your typical Giselle or your dot damage dealer. That is who she's going to use her pursue and attack on with the ability up here, where she removes all the buffs and all that, right? So very nice. Alright, let's move along here. Let's go to the exclusives here. We already used 12 minutes on this one because the hero is so broken that we have so much to talk about. Exclusive 1 here is where it all begins to become fun. Mary can gain resonant points when she's on the resonant enhancement status, and after the enemy's act, inflicts 1 layer of Christmas night on them, 2 turns, and if the enemy has 4 layers, then she will imprison them. Now, the first line here is very, very important for her, because that means that instead of, because up here it says that she cannot get any more resonant points once while she's in the resonant status, right? That means that she has a 2-turn like cooldown on getting back to this ability up here, right? But with the exclusive 1, she can still get the points. So once allies have used 10 attacks while she has the resonant enhancement effect on for the 2 turns, then she can get it back again. So I think we'll have to test it on Thursday, but I think she has a pretty high uptime on her resonance damage part here. So that's going to be nice. And those 4 layers there, she'll apply 1 layer with the 1 layer when enemy acts, that's 1. She has 1 layer here on the S4, there's 2, and then there's 1 layer up here, that is 3. So with the exclusive 1, you are applying, if you're attacking, then you have 3, and then once the enemy goes for the second time before the debuff goes away for the 2 turns one, then they'll have 4 layers and they'll be imprisoned. So it's very nice. Now, exclusive 2, at the beginning of Mary's wave. Now, I've just asked in the CC chat if we can get this confirmed, if they mean at the beginning of Mary's turn or at the beginning of wave. It's a pretty huge difference actually, and the wording is a bit weird, so trying to get a confirmation about what they mean here. And after every 2 of her turns, grants self Peaceful Christmas. Now, this Peaceful Christmas buff says that its damage taken by all allies is fixed to 1 point when they take damage, excluding crit damage. This is a huge counter to any dodge damage. like Erato, Giselle, Lance, all of those, they'll do 1 point. They cannot do any damage because dots cannot crit. So the only one that will be able to do damage here is people that are critting. So it could be a Sun Wukong with a 100% crit rate, it could be a Jingle Belle, it could be another Mary, and Melq, someone like that that can crit. Not Melq actually. Oh yeah, he always crits. He crits always with his ability. Don't regard what I said. And so that could be some of those. They will still do damage, but Lance will not do damage. Erato and Giselle will not do damage. And but if it says here at the beginning of the wave, like down here, then this one is kind of broken, because then you don't have to do anything. You just start out with being immune to Erato, Giselle, and all those, and you cannot die in the first 2 turns then. Now, if it's at the beginning of Mary's turn, then you can try and CC her, and she'll still get her turn and all that, and then like she'll get her turn, but you kind of have to act, so you need to put speed on her, you need to make her fast then, and yeah, I don't know, it's a pretty big difference, so we'll have to see about that. And I think that the rest of it is mainly for PvE, like once the Defector Sticker tries, and then after 4 turns and 6 turns and all that, is just so that she's not too broken in PvE. That's what I'm thinking, because most PvP battles are pretty fast anyways. Now, exclusive 3 here, at the beginning of each wave, Mary enters Resonance Enhancement status for 2 turns. In the duration of the enhancement status, after other ally cast skills to enemies proactively and deal damage, Mary deals extra damage by 200% of self-attack to them, and then for every debuff of the Christmas night, she'll do another 50%, and this can only be once per turn of the enemy, right? So that is huge. Now, obviously, exclusive 3 is always the most broken and huge thing on these kind of enemies, and it's no difference on Mary. Because this means that she'll start out with the Resonance Enhancement, she'll start out with 100% piercing rate, she'll give 100% piercing rate to her like ally with the most attack. She'll also be able to do some extra damage just while your other people are doing something, like a Popper, a Rona, a Jingle Belle ATK or whatever. If they get the turn, they do something, they do damage, then she'll also do 200% damage with 100% piercing rate, which is basically like having a Lance also doing a lot of damage, and we all know how hard Lance is hitting from the beginning of the battle. So, and then if you pair her with a Jingle Belle if you can do that, you'll also get all those snowballs just falling down on people. I think this can be very crazy. And another good thing is that she'll also do the pursue and attack here, because she'll start out with this buff here, and then you can just do the S4, you can just start with the S4, and you'll do this AoE damage here, and you will also put the Christmas night debuff on people, and then you'll pursue and attack the highest mastery enemy as well. Maybe killing that enemy because you've just done a 520% attack damage with 100% piercing rate, and then you're following up with a 3 times 280% attack damage that ignores shield immunity and whatnot. So I think it's crazy strong, very, very strong. Now other things I could kind of see her paired up with would obviously be Sun Wukong in PvP. Like if you don't pair her with the Jingle Belle, but you pair her with Sun Wukong, then you can give Sun Wukong the most attack other than Mary, obviously, and then he'll have 100% piercing rate. I think he hits pretty hard as well, so you might be able to do something like that. But let's take a look in game. Alright, so we're back in game here, and I'm just looking at Jingle Belle here because I was curious, like, how hard is she hitting compared to the numbers that we see on Mary. And we can see here that for S2 on Jingle Belle, it is like, what is that, 50, maybe 65% attack damage on each snowball, and then she'll also do 240% of that damage, and she can hit up to like 1000% with some stacks of this down here. And other than that, it's like 180% of 50%, so it's not that high. Let's see here. We all know how hard Jingle Belle hits in PvP with her attack, and this one is dealing 2 stages of 40% attack each to all enemies 4 times, so 8 times I guess. And the second stage ignores defense, just like Mary with her 100% piercing rate, it's the same. And then it also says that it increases some of the damage here, blah blah blah. And you can see here that it goes to 300% of the original. So you can imagine that Mary will probably hit pretty hard with that 520% damage. However, if you take a look at our old hero here, Margarita, you can see here that she is doing 3 stages of 100%, 130, which is 390%, and then, well, she has 4 stages, right? So 400, 440 or something like that, right? Plus she also does 200% here, so that is actually like, I think 600% damage or something like that, which is actually more than the S4 on Mary. And Margarita doesn't hit hard, right? However, you have the 100% piercing rate from the passive, which is why that is so important. So I'm already now, this is just a guess, but I'm guessing right now that without exclusives, I don't think she's going to be that. She's not going to be so interesting, really. I think people will be disappointed. We will see on Thursday. I will take it back. This is just speculating. Just from the numbers, from the attack numbers, yes, 520% seems like a high number, but if you consider it like this one here, she's at 400 plus 200%, that is even more than that, right? So when she's not in the resonance enhancement status to get the 100% piercing rate, then she's actually doing less damage than a Margarita, like for real. And so at that point, I think people will be a bit disappointed if they don't have exclusives on her to get that resonant enhancement status going. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll see on Thursday. We'll test it out and see how the damage number works in game, obviously. But just something to note that the number might seem a bit high, but without the piercing rate, then direct damage dealer is not really doing a lot of damage. And you can see here that Lance is doing 200% attack damage, 100% attack damage, all that, but he is also ignoring defense with his bleed damage, so you can't really compare it, right? But we'll have to see, guys. I think it's a very interesting hero. I look forward to pulling the hero and getting it geared up and show you guys all that kind of stuff. But one thing before I leave, and I promised at the beginning of the video that I would talk about it, is that I think it's very nice that she's a red mark and she's also an attack type, because you can actually give her your Jingle Belle gear, because they are the same. The only one is not is the faction artifact, where you have to use a Holy Light artifact instead of a Forester. But the rest of the gear you can just give it to her if she works out to be stronger. So that is very nice. Alright guys, have a nice evening, bye.